Well, hey, we are back on our Ask an Advisor series, and this week we're going to be answering the question, what is my business worth? Now, to most people, their small business is their baby. And how do you put a price tag on a baby? To answer the question of what is my business worth? What we really want to establish early on is that when we speak with sellers, we're going to give them a range of value where we feel their business could land. And the reason being, different businesses are worth different amounts to different people. How one group analyzes and has vision for a business may be significantly different from another group or individual. And so we're always giving our sellers a range that we feel the business can achieve. Now, how do we determine that range? Well, the biggest way that we coach sellers on what their business could be worth all comes down to cash flow or seller's discretionary earnings. And we have equations and different things that we can do to come up with those numbers based on the financials that are submitted to us by the sellers. And we can talk about that in another video. But ultimately, the value of a business is tied to the cash flow that it produces. We have a lot of market insight and different data from a multitude of sources that help us come up with a multiple of the cash flow that helps us determine a range of value for the business. We also look at a metric that is the percentage of gross revenue, which is very common. And a lot of times the multiple for the cash flow and the percentage of gross revenue don't always line up, but it helps us to tighten our range of value that we provide to sellers. Finally, something I want to talk about is the return on investment that a buyer is making. And this is super key because a lot of times, especially when there's financing involved, the price that a buyer is willing to pay is dictated by the amount of debt that they can service and the return on investment that they can get from acquiring the business. Because nobody's going to buy a business, finance it, and not be able to make their payment if the business continues to operate as it has in terms of cash flow and revenue and those kinds of things. So we're always trying to back into a situation of what can a buyer pay, service their debt, earn a return on their investment, and feel optimistic about the operations and the growth of the business in the years to come. Now, as we alluded to earlier, a lot of times when sellers are selling their business, it's their baby. And so beyond just the price that someone is willing to pay for their business, the other thing that's really important is the terms. And what I mean by terms is, how is the deal going to be financed? Is the seller going to get all cash on the front end, or are they going to get some cash and then finance the rest, or is the buyer going to have some kind of an earn-out model to it? Things like, are the current employees going to stay on? Is that key general manager going to continue to be a part of the operation with the new buyer? That's really important to the sellers that we work with, is the people that they already have in place. Other things like a seller transition period. Is the seller going to be required to stay around for a month or 3 months or a year? A lot of times this is negotiated, and so that holds a lot of weight in the negotiation process. Other things to consider are the real estate, if there is real estate involved. Is the new buyer going to lease from the seller of the business, or are they going to buy the building that the business currently operates in? All of that becomes a part of the negotiations in the process too, when you have the business and the real estate involved. In conclusion, a business is worth what someone is willing to pay for it. The terms of the deal are also almost just important, if not more important than the price. When we're helping sellers come up with a range of value for their business, we're typically looking at a multiple of the cash flow, a percentage of gross revenue, and we're also looking at a hypothetical situation, and sometimes even multiple situations, of what can a buyer pay for the business, service their debt, if there is any, and earn a return on their investment that makes sense for them to take on the risk of buying a going concern that is a small business. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to continue answering your questions, and for more information, visit our website at bluegrassbusinessadvisors.com. We'd love to help you analyze your business and give you some thoughts on the range of value where we feel that it could be worth. See you next time.